Celebrate America.
Deron Cloud is the pastor of Soul Factory with a vision of changing lives from the inside out by leading people into a growing relationship with Christ. Mr. Cloud is the writer and producer of a play entitled The Boyfriend-Girlfriend Thing, which covers the results of sexual immorality. He strives to tell young people and adults how it really is by talking about issues that people only talk about behind closed doors in an effort to help them to see the consequences of their behavior. Please help me welcome right now Deron Cloud and the Soul Factory Praise Team.
He hails from Washington, D.C. by way of Cleveland, Ohio. His Soldiers Outreach organization has led more people to Christ for over 15 years. He's written and produced over a dozen stage plays and dramanars. His productions have toured the country, reaching hundreds of thousands of lives in cities such as the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, Atlanta, Georgia, and the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. In 2005, he led a delegation of 130 people to fight poverty in South Africa, rebuilding over 20 homes and orphanages while feeding over 10,000 families. He's often imitated, but never duplicated. He has a record of pain, abuse, abandonment, and rejection, but he has suffered no defeats. He is the undisputed, undefeated SAN light heavyweight champion of the world, Deron Cloud.
I'm going to tell you a true story. Oh, it's right here. I got it. Stop. I know this is sort of a downer, but great. I'm going to tell you a true story. About what happened in my life. I heard a whisper. Can we turn me down in the monitors, the music down in the monitors? I was called on my bike. It was my lowest moment ever. I had messed up my entire life, about to be kicked out of college because I was partying too much. And I was riding my bike, and I heard God say, give it up. I said, you got it. It was a whisper in an audible voice. In the next few minutes, he began to tell me, you're going to be a minister. Now, this was funny, because I was partying, I was drinking, I was doing everything, and I was out there. And so if he said I was going to be a minister, this had to be God. I said, okay, I'll be a minister. I didn't go to church like that. I wasn't a church guy, period. And I started going to church, and after about 2 or 3 sermons, the pastor started saying this big word, fornication. And he was really adamant about fornication. So finally I leaned over to this nice older lady and I said, Miss, can you tell me what fornication is? She said, sweetie, it's fornication. See, I would have looked it up on my phone, but we didn't have an internet at that time. I said, fornication. I said, what does that mean? She says, that means no sex until you get married. I said, no sex? After that service, it's a fire.
I didn't grab no shoes or
nothing.
nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. Then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I didn't have time to not have sex. I'm saying he's having sex with her, then why can't I have sex? This was a deal breaker. Why? Because I had a sweet tooth.
I take you to the candy shop.
The lollipop. And not only did I have a sweet tooth, I love to go to the bakery. Hit it.
He want that cake, 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 cake. What you wanna put your name on it? Oh, baby, I like it.
So I was a little freaky. And so I didn't know if God could save a former freak. But I said, I got to do it. So I decided I would stop dating. So much so, my father asked me, he said, tell me something. You ain't turned gay on me, have you? I said, why? He said, because you ain't brought no women around here in a while. I said, no, God. I said, no, Dad, I'm just being obedient. Because this was a new word in my life. I had never even knew what the word obedience was about. So I'm saying, he say, Lord, teach me to obey. I'm going to obey. So I start obeying, and then I start searching the Bible. And I'm searching, and I'm searching, and I'm searching. Because I'm saying, well, after about 3-4 months, I wanted some more cake. And I began to realize I couldn't go to the bakery. And so I was saying, so God, where do you get a girlfriend? Where does it say in the Bible to get a girlfriend? And I couldn't find it. Everything kept saying, wife, wife, wife. I said, I don't want a wife, I want a girlfriend. And when I said that, I realized the world had gotten it wrong. So I said, so what am I going to do? Then the church introduced this new word, mate. I ain't never heard of mate. I've heard of coffee mate, but I ain't never heard of mate. So I'm looking for a mate. I'm dating this one, dating that one, dating this one, dating that one, dating, no caking, just dating, doing all these different things, only to realize that boyfriend and girlfriend wasn't in the Bible. And that's when God said, the definition of a boy is a young and mature male lacking judgment. The definition of a girl is a young and mature female lacking judgment. The definition of friend is someone who holds personal regards and affections for another. Hence, the definition of boyfriend, girlfriend is two young, immature individuals lacking in maturity and judgment, holding personal regards and affections for another. God said, let us create a what? Man. But the woman asked for a boy what? Friend. And when you act like a boy, she can't under what? Stand. Because she thought she got a what? Man. But instead she got a boy what? Friend. She got exactly what she asked for. So after a few plays, and this is a true story, after a few plays, I came to my senses. I said, okay, let me just go find this wife. I said, the man who finds a wife finds a good thing. So I started looking for my good thing. And I found her, a black girl named Jill. I said, oh, I didn't hit the jackpot now. I decide she's going to be with me because we became best friends. And we were such good friends, I realized if she married someone else, she was still going to have to talk to me. And that's when I realized I need to get her for myself. Now, she was a couple of years older than me, so I was way out of my league. We get married, fast forward. I make a vow to her. We walk the aisles. I make a vow to her daughter, who was then 8 years old. And I make a vow that I'm going to be her husband and I'm going to be the daughter's father. And we live happily ever after. No. Me and my wife believe in God, decide to get bold. We're going to go full time in ministry. So we start a Bible study. God says, start a Bible study, because so many people was coming to the place. He said, just do a Bible study. And then they started calling me pastor. I was like, hey, cut that out, man. Cut that out, man. My name is Deron. Well, pastor. I said, no, my name is Deron. And sure enough, about a month or two later, the Bible study is growing. Probably about 6 months, I looked at Jill and I said, God said, start the church. He might as well, now that I think about it, I think he said, let the beatings begin. Because we're going to change lives from the inside out. The church grows every year. We're making a difference throughout the entire metropolitan area. Bible studies, seminars, we're doing all these different things, and our slogan is keep it real. So I'm known as the keep it real pastor, and I'm keeping it real. And I got the ministry soldiers, sold out, delivered in everlasting righteous service, and we're serving. We thrive for a few years. And that's when I begin to realize I'm not qualified for this. We start having problems and infighting. He said start a church. He didn't tell me I had to referee. So I'm seeing people won't talk to each other. And so now I'm saying, what is this? Within 2 to 3 years, we grow exponentially. Now get this. The pressure is so overwhelming on my soul, I'm preaching on Sunday and cussing my wife out Sunday night. We arguing. Good cuss words. We ain't talking about little stuff. We both from the hood. So we doing some good fighting. Sometimes I wish they had cameras to catch what was going on in that house. I'm now having problems in my marriage, my mind, my money, and my mouth. And one of the reasons we're arguing is because she's telling me this is God's church. See, I married someone who truly believed in God, and every time I tripped out, she had to remind me, this is not your church, this is God's church. But you know, as a man, we don't listen, and I don't listen, and sure enough, God has to get my attention, and I have an aneurysm. I have an aneurysm. Hospital 7 days. By the time I come to, I realized I had lost it. I apologized to my daughter. I apologized to my wife. I didn't even know why. And I said, I'm going to change. And we changed dramatically, and we began to grow together. But resentment and bitterness was still in our relationship. The arguing became more frequent. And as the arguing became more frequent, we gave our lives to the church, and we realized we lost our relationship. We were best friends, but now we could barely look at each other at times. And then I remember there's a couple of moments where it got to the point where I said, we both said, we're going to separate. We're going to divorce. That's the pastor's worst nightmare. How am I going to tell the church that we are separated, but we couldn't see eye to eye? Now watch. A man is supposed to love himself, love his wife as he loves himself. And a woman is supposed to see to it that she respects her husband. We violated that principle every day. We begin to turn the corner. And as soon as we turn the corner, and I think I got it, it takes me a year and a half or so to truly recuperate, and everything is going well. The church is thriving again, and then God sends me another gift. A church split. I can't believe it. I'm ministering, and the church is splitting. And I don't understand what's happening. Nobody's talking to anybody. People are talking, and it nearly rips my heart out, causing me to almost have a nervous breakdown. This is where I blow it. Because I make a vow. I will never, ever minister to another male again. I'm done. I'm just going with the children. Tell God what you ain't gonna do. I realized I was angry with God, and then a few years later, we're turning the corner again. Oh, not that. I take that back. The church split happened, and then within 3 months, I'm diagnosed with lung cancer, non-smoking lung cancer. At this point, I'm at Cancer Center Treatments of America. I believe this is happening. I'm being seriously tested. I check into the hospital. On the third day, I come face to face with death. And when I come face to face with death, they tell me they're going to have to remove my lung. I go home. I go to the hotel that they had me staying in, and I sit in that hotel room, and all my faith is gone. Because I'm saying, God, I don't get it. And sure enough, I have Dick Gregory, and he calls me. And he says to me, what's going on? And I tell him, and he says, you don't know who you are. And then he encouraged me. I get off the phone, and I fall on my face, prostrate, and I cry out to God like I've never cried before, ever. And when I say I cry out to God, I mean I hit the floor, boom, and I just go, oh, God. And while I am wailing, he speaks, and he says, no more people pleasing. Do you get it now? He said, I've been telling you to stop people pleasing, and you have not been speaking the truth. You've been slipping by. You've been slipping by with your family. You're not speaking the truth. He says, you get it? I said, you got it. He said, it was my pleasure to destroy this church that you built, because you built it on relationship with people, not relationship with me. So I go get the PET scan, and I got to be still for 3 hours. And for 3 hours, I go through my life. He tells me to open my eyes, and he says, when you come out of here, go back and win the men. I go home, back to the hotel. That night I have a dream. And in that dream, I realize I got to get my equilibrium back. I realize that night I got to repent of my ego leadership. If we're talking about celebrate America, if America's going to get it right, then our men must step up. If America's going to get it together, our men must step up. And be the men in their relationships so that the relationships can be healed. He says, call it Hequilibrahim. Hequilibrahim. Good men regaining their balance through listening to the women in their lives and getting the love that they missed in their home. She can Libra balance you as a man. And once you get your equilibrium, you can get your shequilibrium.
I tell you, man, these church women, they be acting like they want a man, but then when they get one, they don't even know how to treat him.
I feel the same way.
They ain't got no idea how to treat these women. Every time I go to talk to her, she think she got to do all the talking.
I know the same, and I feel the exact same way. These women don't know us. They don't know us.
Turn it up. She asked him once to take off his stinky shoes. He complied. Did she say anything? No, she took for granted her boo. She asked him once again, could he step up around the house? He complied. Did she say thank you? No way. She was quiet as a whore in God's house. She asked him to be a man, and he already was. It wasn't until after the divorce that she recognized. She had never recognized his efforts. Talk to me. Hequilibrium number 1. There's 7 of them. We'll only get through 2. Hequilibrium number 1. A man's sense of self is defined through his ability to achieve results in him loving you. If a man doesn't see results in his efforts to love you, he becomes discouraged. So if women are going to help get America right, she's got to understand you got to acknowledge him. Because men need acknowledgement like we need air.
1 and then 2, 2 and then 3, 3 and then 4, then you gotta breathe, then you gotta breathe, then you gotta.
So now, I'm getting it together. I come face to face with death. That's when you begin to realize who you love and who you ain't been loving right, and what you need to do. My wife is my best friend, but my treatment of her says otherwise. She begins to pull herself away from me. And as she begins to pull herself away from me, I realize I gotta win her back. I gotta get her back. Because we're friends and we still having sex. We didn't cut all that out. But it's in between arguing. And I said, I gotta get her back. So I humble myself. Because in every argument, she kept saying, you're sick, you need some help. You're sick, you need some help. You're sick, you need some help. So I humbled myself. I'm supposed to be the relationships expert, but I decide I'm gonna go to counseling. And when I get to counseling, I make the decision, I'm gonna have to love her the way she wants to be loved. When you love a woman, you have to understand she comes in pieces. There are many different pieces to her. We only like a few of the pieces. But I learned to love a woman, you've got to love her pain and her hurt without hugging her fears. She has to deal with her own fears, but just as she loves you all the way, you got to love her and all of her. And when you love all of her, what you're really doing is you're showing her that you care. Now, Hequilibrahim number 2. A woman's sense of self is defined through the quality, through her feelings and the quality of her relationships. A woman's sense of self is defined through her feelings and the qualities of her relationship. And if her relationships are in order, she feels in order. If her relationships are out of sync, she feels out of sync. But if she feels you're invested in the relationship, you get a gift from the Lord. So watch this. So when you find yourself talking rough to her, she's saying,
Yes, I'm a woman.
When you find that she starts crying, she's saying,
I'm a woman. Yes, I'm a woman.
When you don't listen to her, she's saying,
I'm a woman, a woman, a woman, woman. Yes, I'm a woman, a woman.
You got to treat women right. You got to be gentle with them. I'm a man, I forget that fast. So what has happened in America? Our youth have decided they don't want the God that can't change their angry parents. I'm gonna say it again. What has happened to America is that our youth see the phoniness of their parents who worship on Sunday and trip out all the rest of the week, and they decide they don't want that God. I can't say that I blame them. So how do we change this? In ministry 20 years, and I came to the conclusion that by design, the black men have played and the black boys have played right into this system of oppression and isolation. And as they have played into this system of oppression and isolation, at least for the last 40 years, it's been mission accomplished. I know you feel it, turn it up. They're angry and they have a right to be because they was left to themselves to raise a family by themselves. And so many of the black women and many of you other white women, because it ain't even a black thing no more, are angry because they didn't decide to have 2 kids and raise them by themselves. And in doing so, they have messed up the sons, and the sons are crying out, and this is their cry. What's wrong with my mind? Why am I so behind? I'm on single mother time. Single mother time. The mind of a man solely trained and raised by a female ends up single mother time. Our growth stunted. Mamas raising their sons into the mans they themselves wanted. Single mother time. I don't know how to share how I feel. She's cut me off when I talk. Never allowing me to finish my thoughts. Taking it out on me because my daddy walked. Not allowing me my own opinion. Talking to me and making me listen to her stories of men and sin, and telling me grown up stuff about her boyfriends and how they hurt you. Give me a bad taste in my mouth about women, yet I grin and bear it because you're all I got in this world. So I sing, I'll always love my mama. She's my favorite girl. But in private I cry. I have to admit that my mother's angry, domineering ways has castrated me, causing me to be a man of passivity, unable to speak up, unable to stand up for myself, unable to do it on my own, making the women who love me constantly angry with me, making me regret that she even got with me because she's stronger than me. I'm on single mother time, unable to keep steady job, unable to produce like the man I'm supposed to. What's wrong? What's the use? Am I a fool? No, brother, you're not a fool. You can use your street mentality, surrender to God. And once you surrender to God, you can be as shrewd as a serpent, but as innocent as a dove. You got to be smooth. I would let it fly, but I couldn't get them back. And once you learn that you can return yourself back to you, you begin to understand what God is doing. See, we got to stop all this running around and shouting, but ain't living a nickel's worth of nothing. We can rebuke the devil, but we can't rebuke a jelly donut. So here I am prospering. Everything is going well. And then all of a sudden something happens in my life after years of prospering, becoming the man of God, great reputation. Everybody knows me. We're having a good time. Something begins to happen. I forget something. Unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it will produce many. The man who wants to find his life will lose his life, but the man who finds his life for my sake will gain it. So I want you to understand, by this time I have lost my confidence. People are talking about me and I'm saying, what is happening? I don't understand what's going on. It was not my fault. And he said, you forgot what you started off with. Lord, teach me to die. Please turn it up. See, every day you got to tell yourself, Lord, teach me to die. Die to myself, die to my ways. Teach me to die. Teach me to die. Teach me to die. Teach me to die. Teach
You've
me
been
to die.
walking your path, your path, your path.
Turn it up.
Voice is speaking right here on the inside. But now you're going to walk my path. An encounter with God, or burning bush experience. You might not even understand it all. You might not even understand it all.
I start going through what they call in AA, the dark night of the soul, and darkness begins to fall on me. Nothing is working. Nothing is going right. Nothing is going according to plan. The dark night of the soul. I'm trying to figure out, God, how did I get here? What's happening with me? Why am I here? And he says, you know what your problem is? You done got too cute. You became ashamed of your dirt. And you don't realize it was the dirt. It was the mess. It was all the things that you went through that got you where you were. He said, die, die, die. And I had to lay my life down. Dark night of the soul. And I started repenting of my controlling ways, repenting of my foolishness, repenting of all the things that I had done, repenting of my treating people the wrong way, repenting for not praying when I was supposed to, repenting for all the things I was going through, repenting. And I'm trying to tell you, when you go through the dark night of the soul, he lets you get up when it's time for you to get up. Until then, you have to stay and endure. See, but pastors, we too cute. We don't know how to get dirty. And as I died, my soul was such a mess. It was as if a dark cloud was following me. And I said, God, I didn't mean to hurt nobody. I was just trying to win some people. But I done made so many mistakes. I done messed up so bad. Can you use me? He says, I'm calling you home. Love is calling you home, son. This is when you got to live in the darkness. But I had to follow his light. I had to follow his train. He said, come home, son. I can still use you.
Forgiveness and grace is the path you are sown, and all the mistakes that carried your name are gone.
Forgiveness embraces the past you once owned, and all the mistakes that carried your name. They're gone, 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 gone.
He said, fight. He said, fight. He said, you're covered in the blood, but you stop fighting. He said, you've got the anointing, but you're not fighting. He said, fight. That's what I died for. But I didn't die for you to keep the blood just to yourself. He said, fight. And in the midst of my darkness, he began to show me how to fight. And that's when I began to fight. And this is when the pastor who made a vow not to work with nobody else had to call brothers for some help. I need help, Lord. Help me get out of this mess. I know you can use me. Please, 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 please. I had already been born again, but I didn't think after 20 years of ministry, you could be reborn again and again. And I came out of this thing called religion that claim the blood but don't rely on the blood. The dark night of the soul killed my ego, killed me wanting my reputation, and all I had left was him. And that's when I realized I could make it. Now I want to tell you something. Every Sunday I preached and cried every day after the service. I said, could you still use me? Can you still use me, God? Last night, I'm talking to a friend, and she said, it was around this time last year that cancer hit you. I said, you're right. And I went through my phone. When I was in the hospital, in the cancer center treatment place, I didn't think I could ever be used again. I said, I've given myself. I don't have anything else left to give. And that's when I looked at my phone last night. To the day, July 12, 2013. I was diagnosed with lung cancer. I just wanted to reach people and tell them, you ain't got to be angry. You ain't got to be the way the hood makes you. Listen, I said, I just want to reach people. And 1 year to the day, almost to the hour, I'm with the world's most popular evangelist. You don't get it. I thought he couldn't use me. He says, I'm going to take you through a trial because I got to humble you. Your ego's too big. Turn to love. My wife has got relationships better. We are best friends again. Don't mean I don't say stupid stuff. But guess what? My future's really bright. You know why? People say, the red glasses. Because as a pastor, I wasn't praying at all. I'm just showing up on Sunday. When you can really speak. And I know my time is up.
when you can really speak, you get used to it. And one day I was reading the Bible, and I noticed all the words of Christ was read. And because I had become such an angry, bitter person, and God had healed me, I decided to buy red glasses, short of a tattoo, to remind myself, this is about God. This ain't got nothing to do with you. So today, I stand and I fight.
Stand and fight. Stand and fight.
Destroy.